Hello, adventurers. I am the Wise Old Man, aka the Hip Old Man, and welcome to Chapter 2 of Tales of the Wise Old Man, a series in which I share with you all one of the craziest adventures I've ever been a part of. And as we all know, I used to be quite the adventurer back in my day. But before we get started, do me a favor and spec that like button, and subscribe to the channel with notifications on so you'll be notified each time a new chapter goes live. Now, grab yourself a drink, a snack, and let's continue on with the story. Chapter 2: Cook's Assistant. I awoke in rather high spirits with the urge to better my magical abilities. After packing up camp, I headed over to my buddy Phileas to see if he had any knowledge that could assist me in doing so, and like usual, he did not let me down. He informed me of a place called the Wizard's Tower, which was located nearby and was filled with very experienced wizards who might be able to help me out. So, with his directions in mind, I headed on over to find this tower. It was a stunning piece of architecture, located out on a small island with a large bridge leading over to it. Inside, I met several master wizards who gave me some really useful tips and tricks, with Wizard Trayborn being particularly helpful. They even let me practice my magic on the demon they had locked up in the top of their tower. But after several hours of practice, and with the help of the tower's wizards, I had learned a new and powerful spell called Varrock Teleport. The wizards told me stories of Varrock, explaining it to be one of the major cities of Gillinor and a major trading hub. If I was to really take my magical abilities to the next level, I'd need to head there next to gear up. So, I gathered all the coins I had and headed off to Varrock. The city was stunning, but I wasn't here to sightsee. I was here on a mission, so there was no time to dilly-dally. First up, I hit the clothing store and bought a new set of magical robes from Thessalia. Then it was off to see Zaf to get a couple new staffs. And finally, I went and met up with Aubrey to restock up on some runes. It was a very successful trip, and with all the new gear I'd acquired, I headed back to the tower to work on my magic some more. After several more hours of arduous training, I was in need of more runes, and with my coin purse looking a bit low, I needed a way to earn some more money, so I headed on back to check in with Phileas. He suggested a good way to make money would be to do some freelance cooking for adventurers. Plus, it would be a skill that would come in handy in the future. Luckily enough for me, Duke Horatio's cook was in dire need of assistance, so I headed on over to meet up with him to give him a hand, and hopefully learn a few more cooking tips and tricks from him. The cook went on to inform me that it was the Duke's birthday, and he was supposed to be making a big cake for the event, but he forgot to buy the ingredients. He no longer had enough time to get the ingredients, prep for cooking, and make the cake in the time he had left. Overwhelmed by the situation, he began to freak out, fearing he'd be sacked and left with no money to provide for his 4 children and his goat. So he begged for my assistance, which I agreed to give him. I needed to acquire milk, an egg, and some flour. After getting directions from the cook on where I could get these items, I headed out. First, I headed on over to the nearest chicken coop I could find and got an egg. Then, it was north towards Mill Lane. The miller there, Millie, was very helpful as she showed me how to pick the wheat and then turn it into flour. And finally, I headed across the river to the cattle field, and after a quick lesson from Gilly Groats, I was milking the dairy cow like a pro and had enough milk for the cake in no time at all. With all of the ingredients in my possession, I head on back to the cook to deliver them. He was delighted with the speed in which I got him his ingredients, and although I wasn't invited to the Duke's party, he did give me some very useful tips that took my cooking game to the next level. One day though, I will be important enough to sit at the Duke's table. You can count on that. There was still a good amount of time left before sundown though, so I figured I might as well go work on a few of my survival skills if I was going to eventually be important enough to rub shoulders with the Duke. First up, I figured I might as well better myself with melee combat, as runes aren't cheap, and if any monsters managed to get close enough to me, I'd better know how to handle myself in a fight. Phileas let me know of a guy who could gift me a decent training sword and shield, and with that I could practice a bit on some cows. To kill two birds with one stone, I would also collect the meat of the cows I defeated and cook it to work on my cooking skills. After a while, I felt myself getting a lot better with the sword, so I moved on to the bow to better verse myself with that weapon. I also figured I might as well work on my wood cutting and fire making, as that would assist me on my cooking journey going forward. After that, I practiced my fishing and then my crafting before I noticed the sun beginning to set, so I headed on over to set up camp. It was a really successful day in which I learned a lot, but after all of that adventuring, it was time to call it a day and get some well-earned rest. And that brings an end to Chapter 2 of Tales of the Wise Old Man. If you're enjoying the story so far, make sure to spec that like button and subscribe to the channel with notifications on so you don't miss when Chapter 3 goes live. But until the next one, I'll see you in Gielinor. Thanks for watching another video. If you'd like to watch Chapter 3 of this story, if it's available, click on the video to the left, or if you'd like to hear about the time I won the Fashion Fest extravaganza, click on the video to the right.